Hello, Easton. Good morning, afternoon, sunshine.
There's no sunshine, but good day. It's dark.
Good day.
Yeah, good day.
Good
Daytime,
day.
I think. I don't know.
Good day.
I don't know. I get why you're saying that. I did just wake up. Don't ask why.
Try but dry. So
What's today? What are we talking about?
today is episode 21. I'm
Ooh.
alive. You're live. And we've got all kinds of crazy things to talk about. We're back to our regular schedule.
Yep. It's a Sunday for us, so this will come out on a Wednesday.
It's a few weeks past due, but we've had so much going on the show and everything else that we haven't got to talk about my Alaska trip.
Mm-hmm.
We had a Moto America race today, multiple Moto America races, and we also got back to some MotoGP action.
Yeah, it was a good MotoGP weekend. Quick plug for the Alaska trip. If you haven't seen our video, that's out. So wherever, I don't...
Is it going to be there?
Yeah, there. That's good. I like that. The double finger up, because somewhere up there is where it'll be. It goes on the right side of the screen. But am I pointing to the right side of the screen right now?
Well, it's my left, but I'm looking at you.
Right. So I don't know, because the cameras are mirrored, and you've told me later, like, anyway, it'll be up there. Should we roll the intro?
Roll the intro. Let's do it.
Intro.
Yesterday at one point, I was in sixth.
And we're back.
We're back. And we're still alive.
Oh,
That's always good. That'll never get old.
You know what gets old?
You?
Just because what's his nuts ain't here. That's what I'm calling him.
Look nut. What's his nut? Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah,
it actually might be the only time that would be appropriate to use that as a normal name for someone.
Right. So just because what's his nuts here don't mean you can make fun of me for being old.
Well,
my feelings are razor thin right now.
For what?
I've been hammering on bikes for 2 days straight.
Hammering?
Well, there was hammers involved a couple times.
Ugh.
You know, it's every time you turn around, there's that one more thing. Oh, yeah. Forgot that. Oh,
the only time I put a hammer on a bike is when I need to get the axle rod through, and it just won't go. So you just pull out the ball peen and you just smash it through.
Are you freaking kidding right now?
No, I don't do that.
well, I don't know. I mean,
I'll give it like a good tap, right? Like
with a rubber mallet.
Yeah, you pull out the rubber mallet, give it a little tap as it's going through, and you're wiggling the wheel.
Yes.
No.
You sharpen the end of it so it goes.
You ever seen the video of the dude that's trying to put a camshaft in, and so he's got a 5-gallon bucket of oil, right? He dumps the camshaft in the bucket and then drops it into the engine, and of course it doesn't really go in, and then he pulls out a sledgehammer and just starts beating on it. By the end of it, the entire engine's cracked into pieces. And anyway, yeah. Great video. Look it up.
I remember that video. I do remember that.
It's a good time.
I've seen that one before.
Well, do you want to talk about that first, or?
Yeah, I mean, we're running out of time.
So last week we had 3 options. We were already moving on option 2, right?
Yeah, we've decided to do all 3. So
all of them. They weren't options. They were just what's going to happen.
Yeah, 3 options simultaneously. Whatever one works is the one we're going with.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody out there listening knows a good BMW engine builder? My ears are open.
Comments. Put his number.
Comment. Put that in the link. Somebody that wants to build a vintage BMW engine.
See, that's why I'm going to continue to give you crap. Is because as I get older, they're calling 2010 motorcycles vintage.
What?
Like you go race in a vintage whatever. What is the actual class name again?
Vintage GTO, actually.
Yeah, vintage GTO. You go racing that with a motorcycle that's one, I will say, shout out to BMW, credit to them. they build a beautiful bike with a timeless body style, I would say. Like none of the S1000s. In fact, I would actually say the new one will probably look old before the old one does, honestly.
I would argue that. So when you use the word timeless,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of I'm going to go off motorcycle subject here for just a second.
Okay. Oh,
But
warning.
So
Motorcycle podcast may not remain motorcycle for the next approximately 5 minutes.
So
Please stay tuned.
There's certain designs that always look good, right?
Yeah.
I would throw out a 67 Chevy pickup. That is a timeless design. People liked them when they came out. They're still sought after. People love that body style.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has to like them, but most people do.
No, they do. They do have to.
So that is a timeless design. Sticking with GM so that I'm not picking on any other brands.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a 78 Trans Am, maybe a Smokey and the Bandit car,
mm-hmm.
when that thing was new, it had a giant bird on the hood. It had mud flaps. It had all kinds of stuff. And for the day, it was amazing. Everybody loved it. But then, a couple years went by and people didn't want to be caught dead driving that car. It's made a comeback recent because it's got so old. People are nostalgic about it again, and they're worth a lot of money and everything else. But that is not, in my book, a timeless design.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than the 90s.
Yes. So back to the BMW, back to motorcycles.
And
I would argue, being a guy that loves the BMW, right?
Uh-huh.
I would argue that those first gens, have you ever really looked at like the tail light?
Okay, that part, yeah. The like jagged.
It's like a Klingon war sword from Star Trek sticking out of the back of that thing.
Yeah, that was actually like my least favorite part of the entire bike. I've always liked sharp edges, and the rest of the bike all looks great. Besides, like the nose does this, like it comes down and then it like juts out right at the end.
Yep.
That's kind of weird, but I got over that. But at the back, when they had the jagged star-shaped taillight, I'm like, why don't you just make it a triangle? Like your race fairings look way better. I guess it has been a minute since I've really looked close at a street bike, which I guess you have more recently. So
yes, I just took one of those Klingon war swords off of one,
bringing us right back. So
option one, again, I am looking for somebody to build this engine. We'll see where that goes, but the race bike's been completely tore down.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, option two was to put the 2022 on the track.
Mm-hmm.
That plan has been put into motion. Parts are ordered. They are not here yet. It is.
Do we have anything yet?
We have the kickstand eliminator.
It's cool. Yeah. No more kickstand.
Some parts should start showing up. By the time you listen to this podcast, I should have some carbon fiber bits. I have a Pro Bolt kit so that I can do all the safety wiring, but the alpha fairings and bracket kit have not shipped yet, so I have no idea where those are going to be or if they're going to come. We'll keep you in the loop on that one. So that plan is.
I had a question about that. Does the alpha fairings, those come painted?
No.
Okay.
Black
primer though?
They're going to be black primer.
Okay.
Is my understanding. We'll see what shows up, but they should be black. We'll put them on. We'll get through the weekend, and then we'll figure out what we're doing over the winter.
Sweet.
Or we'll just crash them off, and they'll just look like everybody else is out there. I mean, it's what happens. Option 3, I went and picked up a 2010 first gen BMW, complete. Ish.
What do you mean ish?
So, as things become vintage, it's like buying an old three-wheeler, man. Somebody's going to have had their hands on it at some point in history, and whether they put it back together right or not is anybody's guess. I don't want to bag on said bike for some reasons you're aware of, but quite a few things under the hood that left, some desire.
Ah, yes. Untold stories, if you will.
Untold stories.
So we don't have the stories to tell you, so.
Yes.
That's all right.
There's some history. It's been through some things.
Yeah. I mean, everything will be like that. I would say the biggest thing with that is just, to the audience, I'm sure you guys all already know, but if you're buying a race bike, even if it, the guy's like, yeah, I just raced it last weekend, do your own checks. It's worth it. You don't want to have a wheel or a lever or Did you send me that video with the dude whose brake pads fell out on the straight?
No.
This guy's like flying down the straight, and his GoPro, like, I almost bought a GoPro right after that video. Or maybe, no, it was probably a 360 cam because he was able to look down at the ground. But I was like, wow, those things are sweet because he's like flying down the straight. Video's like kind of blurry, and then it just stops and looks down, and there's this brake pad, like very obviously a brake pad, just on the ground. And then like another however many yards or whatever, a couple seconds later, stops, looks down. There's the other brake pad. Then he gets to the end of the straight, and he's just right off the end of the straight because he pulled his brakes and there was nothing there. So,
well, apparently it happens because when we did that track walk at USBA, one of the guys I was walking around with, there was something on the track. We'd been running all day, right?
Yeah.
Walked over and there was brake pad off of a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was, it was big. It was fresh. It was new. Like it hadn't been used a lot, but it was just laying on the track just off the racing line. And so somebody had brakes fall out of their car, and we'd been racing all day with that on the track somewhere.
Yeah, because I guess, the cars weren't running that day, so it couldn't have been from...
No, they were not. But so...
It was amazing to me, because I didn't notice that. Like, when we went and walked around the ridge, I didn't really notice it that much. Just probably just because I wasn't looking for it, or because they have grass or whatever else. But yeah, UMC is like, there's a lot of stuff out there in the weeds. Like the amount of hoses, bolts, springs, brake pads.
Do you remember when we were at USBA? I can't remember if that was on the race, but the last time you were up, I think it was on that track day. There was a front fender sitting next to the track.
Yeah.
That was the track day before, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was Rainey's fender.
Okay. All right.
I was talking to her and she says, "Yeah, I lost a fender out here last time. They wouldn't let me go out and get it." And I explained the corner, and she was like, "Yeah, that was my fender." I said, "Well, you should have told me. I would have swung out there and grabbed it because I drove around it for like 10 laps."
Yeah.
She never did go get it.
Yeah.
Back to the BMW.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Just to finish that. So we have the donor bike, I'm calling it. The donor bike is safety wired, coolant's flushed, oil's changed, new exhaust put on it. All the fairings from the race bike have been moved over.
New exhaust? Or?
The exhaust off the other bike.
Okay.
The exhaust that was on it had some interesting things done to it. Kids trying to make bikes loud. Let's just put it that way. Plus, it had all the emissions still on. It had the catalytic converter, of course, but those have I don't even know what you call it. Same thing as on your Suzuki. What do you call that? Valve you bypass.
Oh, yep, that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, when you remember, it has one of those on it, so I had to get rid of that. And it additionally has like two of them. It has one up front, right at the header tubes.
Servo.
Well,
a servo is just a type of motor. So, but that's what they're called. Yeah, exhaust valve. Honestly, is all it's really called.
Yeah, well, it's got two of those. It's got one on the back of the cat at the top, and then it's got one right at the beginning of the headers. So I had to eliminate those things off because they're never going back on.
You know what would be cool is if
tell me
if the Germans over there making these BMWs were like, let's put these valves in here and then a pipe, and then when you take it to like raw mode or whatever you want to call it,
slick mode.
Yeah, slick mode. That's the one. It just opens them and bypasses the cat and just like.
I like it. But speaking of slick mode, so then BMWs have a slick chip.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard that whole story?
I might have, but I don't know if anyone else has.
So on the first gen BMWs, for insurance reasons, for BMW to sell them, was my understanding. They have you have rain, sport, and race are the three modes that bike came with. But they additionally made a slick mode that is no ABS, no traction control, full power. It's just let's just make this thing analog. Yeah, raw. Yeah. So what you did is, it was like common knowledge in the day. You bought the bike, the BMW dealer couldn't tell you about it. It's like the secret menu at McDonald's.
Yeah. So
if you went back to your BMW dealer with your new BMW, you said, "Give me the slick chip," and they would give it to you for free. And so there's was
that in McDonald's? It was like supersized, right?
You get a meal man. There's like a mystery menu at McDonald's. People talk about it all the time. Google it. It's not in my encyclopedias, for the record, but if you go to McDonald's, you can order like a a Whopper killer or something. They have funny names for them, and the people at McDonald's are supposed to know what that is. Like,
There's no way they know.
yeah, because they just started yesterday, and they
these days, McDonald's. Yeah. Anyway, we don't need to get into that, but there's no way.
Da 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 da. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I don't watch TV, so.
You get this little chip. There's a place in the wiring harness that it just plugs in.
So it is physically a chip.
It's physically it looks like a USB.
Yeah. Okay.
But it plugs in, and then you have slick mode.
I think that BMW wasn't insurance related at all. I think they just wanted to be cool.
Oh,
Right? It's like you go out and you buy a Bugatti Veyron, right? If you want to take that thing to the top speed, you have to get this like special key, and you insert it down in like the door frame almost, and then the whole freaking car like lowers 4 inches. The wing goes all the way up and extends out, and it's like a new dash or something. Like the thing literally transforms itself into like, yeah, now you have your car. You paid $1.4 million before, and you had a car that looks cool. Now you actually get the full quad turbo W16, whatever craziness, burn through tires in 20 minutes thing. Is it? Yeah, tires in 20 minutes, but a tank of gas in 10. So, did you know that? Flat out in one of those? Yeah. Anyway. Yes, I watched Top Gear. Yeah.
So the slick chip, though, to finish that thought, what was cool about it is it's not really that cool because technically I always leave mine on race mode.
Mm-hmm.
I just always have. I don't even know if I've tried slick mode.
Right.
Screwing around on the street, but at the track, it's just race works. That's what I'm doing. But I went, hey, I got this new bike, and I cycle through there, and there's no slick mode. So I walk over to the old bike, unplug the chip, plug it in. I didn't know if you'd have to, because I never bought a brand new one back in the day, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I just walked over, plugged the chip in, and it was instantly up on the dash. The next time I cycled the key, and now I have slick mode on the donor bike, whatever that means.
Nice. That's not bad.
Yeah. So I think at this point, at the very least, we have a old BMW to go run around the track. S1000.
Sweet. So taking that out, hopefully the 22's ready to go that weekend.
Yep, I'll take both. And I think I've got it in my head now that I'm running the 22. So even if the fairings don't show up, I think it'll be there running around on the track day at least.
Okay. You're swapping that over to slicks when you get there, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Probably before, because I got that pile of tires I got to start going through.
Yeah. All right. So all 3 options are in play. The first option,
the motor rebuild ain't gonna make it.
It's the long haul. Yeah.
Yeah. The 2022 might not make it, but we have positioned ourselves. Like I said, we may or may not have done the test, neighborhood, all that.
Yeah. Yeah. The local dyno.
Yeah, the local dyno has been completed, and we are happy. It does have, like, I think I was already telling you about that, but it was interesting. It's my bike. It's even the same color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got the fairings on it, so it just feels like that's my bike, right?
Yeah.
But then when you go drive it, there's a couple key things missing. It doesn't have a tune on it yet. It doesn't have a power commander. I don't know what horsepower that actually gives you on a stock bike, right? But it doesn't have those things. And then the biggest thing is the Motion Pro quick turn throttle.
So you actually like going back, pretty big difference.
Yeah.
And you've got the same one as me, the Revit 2.
Yep.
You use the cam wheel.
Yep. But I opted. I was gonna throw it over, and then I said, "Nah, I'm just gonna run it like this."
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you are planning on running the 22 most of the day, then yeah, plan on running the 22 most of the day. Rebuilding your original. This is really just like a race bike.
Yeah, so if I can finish the 22, then the only reason I did this is just to race the vintage class.
Yeah.
Cameron, if you're listening, I'm coming for you.
That's what's up. With a slower bike.
With a slower bike, which might be better for me. Maybe. All right.
So what about suspension? What's the plan there?
So I've mimicked.
Okay, so you went and counted clicks or whatever and just kind of set up.
Copied it.
But you were talking about, I don't know if it was on here or not, you were talking about getting the other one adjusted anyway to help with stopping, I think.
Yeah, I need
less rear wheel lift.
Yeah, I need to try. I think I need to stiffen the forks up to keep the rear tire from coming off the ground, because that's the biggest thing I struggle with braking is
stiffen or soften.
So the front is sagging. I think the front is diving, and it's allowing the back to come up. if the front was stiffer, it wouldn't sink so hard. It would handle more front brake pressure without trying to lift the rear tire.
Interesting. That's why I don't use suspension, because I agree with what you're saying, but my head's also trying to argue the other side where, well, now you're stiffer, so it's harder to take all that like forward lean impact. So it's going to really want to bring the rear wheel up.
I hear you, but
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
told is,
Okay, well, that's good. And you've talked to people that actually know suspension. So,
yeah, the revelation I had at Brainerd was
all right.
hearing other riders dealing with the same thing. And I'm like, I can do something about that. Duh.
Oh, man. All right, sweet. And when is that round 4, right?
September 2nd.
Okay, cool. So you got 2 weeks.
1 weekend.
Sweet. So what's the plan, right? Like technically we got a Ducati in the stable over there. It's just kind of hanging out. And now we got 3 BMWs. We're going to put a new engine or rebuilt engine back in the original 2010. The 22 is going to stay a race bike probably from the sound of it. 2010 is going to stick around as a backup bike for the weekend / still be running the GTO or the everything's GTO, the vintage.
Yep.
The other 2010 is gonna go back to the.
So I think the donor bike, once I get my new engine done, then I'm gonna, I don't know, it's got a lot of miles on it, so it's not like a wall hanger or whatever, but I was gonna freshen it up and just make her beautiful the way she came.
Okay.
And have me a first gen to look at and drive around on a Sunday every once in a while.
Nice. Sweet.
That's the plan. I mean, that's all I needed, right? One more bike.
Yeah. Just keep the. Dude, we really are gonna have to buy a barn. Just to like the barn idea.
I need a storage facility.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But a barn, like a stable, actual stable, just makes so much sense. You put your dirt bike in one, right? Your street bike in one, your track bike in one, and then like all the parts go in bins in their stable. The bike's not going to take up a whole horse stall. So
that's why I want to build the storage shed thing I was telling you about, is because then that's what I would do is bay 1 is whatever. Bay 2 is whatever else.
Be sweet. That's a good idea.
Next.
September 2nd. Oh my goodness.
Well, what are we talking about next?
Well, I don't know. I think Alaska.
Alaska. I hope by the time people are listening to this, everybody's had a chance to go watch the YouTube video.
If not, it'll be up there.
Sure, it will. So I've teased about it a lot on here, talking about it or whatever, and we've never really, since I've been there and been back for weeks at this point, we've never really dived into it, really talked about it. But
yeah, so let's start over. Right, we've been to the top of Washington and raced there.
Yep.
Not raced, but ridden. We're gonna say raced because it's easier. It was on a racetrack. It wasn't actually racing, but whatever. We've been to the bottom of California. Been to Arizona. Been to Utah. We've now been to Georgia. I've been in Atlanta. You've been up and seen Brainerd, right? I'd say the only part of the country we haven't really gotten just yet is the Northeast, and I think that might be in the books next year sometime. So we're slowly knocking out at least a track per region, right? But Alaska, who would even think about that? Like who would be like, yeah, I got to knock out every track in the U.S. and oh man, Alaska, right? Like Hawaii, I wouldn't ever really think about shipping a bike out to Hawaii either.
Right.
Alaska makes a little more sense than Hawaii, I guess, because you could technically drive up there. But there is a racetrack, kind of, in Alaska, and you had the opportunity to go check it out, see what it's all about. So,
yeah, went and checked that out. So what it is an old airfield that was used in World War II. My understanding is it was used as the last fueling stop for bombers that were headed over to Russia during World War II. It's a big triangle pattern, like 3 runways, basically. It is currently owned by the BLM, the ground and the airfield, and it's used for when there's forest fires in the area. It's used as a location to land planes, helicopters, things like that are fighting fires.
Okay.
So it is still an active airport, which is something I didn't understand before I got there. But it is still somewhat active. I got to talk to a lot of people there, and they all had stories of, when the BLM showing up or officials saying, hey, we've got a fire over here and there's this plane landing, you need to get off. So they have to stop mid event,
Yeah.
pull everything back. And
See,
and go.
it's insane to me that you have, because I never really thought about it, right? I don't think about Alaska a whole lot. Usually when I do, my mind goes straight to basically Antarctica. And then I'm like, well, no, it's not that, because my parents lived up there for a little bit. You know, you've had some family up there. So I've heard the stories, and I'm like, now every time I just imagine like little fishing towns, basically, and a
Right.
lot of rain. And like in my head, like Main Street's a dirt road. There's these little like K trucks driving down, you know, and like there's a bar, and then
A couple bars.
there's some rivers and lake areas where you're definitely going to see wildlife every day, and then people go fishing and you catch salmon, right? That's like Alaska in my head. Sorry for anyone up there but that's what it's been, right? I've never been up there. That's kind of the image I've built over time. It went from just polar ice caps to small fishing towns everywhere. I never really thought about motorcycles, but if you had asked me like, what's the motorcycle scene in Alaska like? I probably would have told you, I don't know, but dual sports, absolutely. Adventure
Right.
bikes, that's probably all that's up there, because that makes sense, right? You could go spend years traveling Alaska on an adventure bike, and actually, that sounds cool. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Sounds fun. All the fire roads and that kind of stuff.
But like with my image of what I expected Alaska to be or what I thought it was, I never would have expected a sport bike of any kind to even be there at all, honestly. Which is
Right.
probably like pretty naive of me to think that there's not a road that you could ride an
Do you know why
S1000
that's naive of you, though?
on. No. Besides, I mean, it's 2023, so
No, there's military bases up there, so of course there's
oh.
sport bikes.
And Camaros and Mustangs and
Yeah.
everything else that they buy with a ridiculous amount of money. Yeah.
So I agree with everything you said, though. I wouldn't anticipate. I mean, the season's got to be short, right? In your mind,
Yeah.
it's got to be a short season, so it's a big investment for something you can only use a
Yeah, I
small
guess that's the
portion
other
of the
thing
year.
too, is like it again, always rainy. I imagine the winters were still polar ice caps, and then it transitions to just straight rain. it's, it's either frozen or just rain. There's never like sun and dry and all of that. So, but I think we found out quite the opposite.
Yeah, we found out quite the opposite. So going back to this airfield. So there is a group of people up there. There's a family that's been promoting and doing this forever, like since the early '90s at least. Which, do you remember the early '90s?
Do I remember the early '90s?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Let's see. I was negative some odd years old, so
yeah.
no.
So longer than you've been around, there's been people racing at this airfield in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty cool. So it's a group of people. Most of them have been doing it together for years up there. They have a trophy that they're going for. It's a trophy that's like, I don't know, like the Stanley Cup, which makes sense because it's Alaska, right? But hockey, so
Yeah.
it's close to Canada. I don't know, but they have a cup, and whoever wins their championship gets their name badge, like an etched name badge or whatever, added to it. It's 4-sided, so
Okay.
got all the names going around for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a little. I mean, I didn't know. I had reached out to some people so that said I could come out and check it out,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't really know what to expect. Showing up there, they have a PA system, like a portable PA system, so they can tell people when it's their turn to go out. They have, I mean, all the things you would expect at a track. There's
Right.
a
Yeah.
there's a little trailer. They do tech. They have classes. The only thing that's not what you would expect at a track day is the track itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the other thing I wanted to say is like, so a couple years ago, we put together this book that has all of the tracks that accept motorcycles and do motorcycle track days in the US, right? And it's like organized by state, whatever. And when we did that, we found that Alaska had a racetrack, and the map was like, oh, that actually looks like a pretty cool track. That looks like fun. And then you look up the Tanacross Airport, and there's an airport with a triangle of runways, and you're like, okay, where's the racetrack, right? And I couldn't ever find it. So going up there, you realize that they just
Yeah.
they're just putting
So
cones out on an airport.
yeah,
It's
so
insane.
they're using cones. I mean, it's not different than, I mean, it's similar to what rally cross or autocross guys do
Hmm.
in a big parking lot with their cars. But they do have. I mean, it's a big facility. It's a big area.
Hmm.
This is not like going to the Walmart parking lot to do an autocross.
Right.
This is a big airfield. So
Yeah, I mean they were landing bombers or whatever in the 40s.
Yep.
So you needed a lot of room.
So I mean it's miles. The track is miles long that they set up. And it's in the, beautiful backdrop as you would expect, mountains in the background, it's trees on both sides. You kind of see the bikes come by and then they disappear down one of the straightaways. And you can hear them out there, but they're disappeared for a while back behind the trees. While this is going on, there's like little dirt trails next to the track. So if there's anything that's lacking, and I'm not judging any of you guys for this, it was just interesting to me. It was funny. They were having a problem with timing, for example, while I was there. It wasn't picking up the bikes as they were going through. So they're trying to get that worked out. And the telemetry or whatever, they were trying to get that worked out. And they came over the PA system and said, can somebody run down there on their bike and like go by the thing or whatever? And there's like 5 guys jump on bikes and take off, no helmets, nothing, right? Because they're just going to drive the bike. And I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that.
So on their race bikes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have their transponders on them or whatever.
Oh, yeah. So they're going, okay. I got you. Because I was
so they have a couple points out there where it's picking up the bikes as they go by, or a point. So they just took off out there to go check them out. And I had to chuckle a little bit, not because I was judging them in any way. I was just laughing about what would happen if I got anywhere near a track without a helmet on, to go talk to my friend or something that was parked over there. They'd be freaking out. They'd kick me out. They'd never let me come back. It was just different. It's a different atmosphere, as one example, right? We always talk about the family atmosphere.
Yeah.
This is a family atmosphere times 10.
Yeah.
It's like a family reunion just showed up and they're all
literally about to say that. I mean, it sounds, when you have one track, one group of people, it's been the same actual family running it for so long that, makes sense. You guys all go hang out there. You all know each other. You all learn to trust each other. So I don't have an issue with that. It's kind of cool, kind of wish you could get that down here, which you do to a degree, but not from the sound of it anyway, not near like that.
Right.
And especially with us, I'd say we show up to so many different racetracks, different groups. And so like most of the time we show up, we don't know anyone. And there's always the same people, but different.
So,
you know what I'm saying?
So I hung out there for a few hours. And so if one of you from Alaska wants to comment, chime in and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I might not be 100% on how this works, but they call it a race. It is a race. They have, a schedule for the season and they're fighting for a championship and all those things. But I will point out that they're not racing each other so that's the wrong way to put that. It's a timed event.
Okay.
So they're sending the bikes out and they're racing each other's times. They're not sending 20 bikes out, gridding them up, launching them, and having them all race for position. Everything's based off you're racing the timesheets.
Do you know why that is?
I wouldn't want to be side by side with too many people out there.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I was just curious if that is the reason. I guess you guys can let us know from up there that are listening, maybe. Well, that was what like really amazed me, and I hate cones on the racetrack. You know that.
You have a history with cones on a racetrack.
Yeah, we've got some. We have a past, me and the cones, but it drives me nuts, and the reason is that
like, you stupid cones, you can't tell me what to do.
Well, it's but for me, it's that focus point, right? And it's like doubled because anytime you go, they're like, "Don't hit the cones. Don't hit the cones. Don't blow the cones, but also don't freaking hit the cones because then we have to red flag, shut the whole thing down. Someone has to go out there just to stand up a 1-foot cone and then get everyone back out, right? It wastes so much time. And I agree. It does waste a lot of time. But then I get hyper focused on this cone. My turn's going this way, but the cone is right there. And that's all I'm looking at because I'm like, don't freaking hit it. And then, well, you hit it. So It is insane to me that you can have a racetrack and you can know where to go and continue to progress almost purely made out of cones, right? Because I was watching some of the footage and I'm watching them like, left around this one, right around this one, left around this one. And I'm like, okay, so after a few laps, you would get used to it and you would know kind of which side of which cone you need to go. But I'm like, how can you really get faster when you still have to, like, every time you're out there, you're what's the word? I don't know the word for it, but you're like refiguring it out, right? If you're trying to get faster, you got to refigure out how to go around the cone. And it'd be so easy to too much speed and then just blow it or go around the wrong side, or I tried something new this time and I'm completely way off. And maybe I'm just speaking crazy and it's the same as being on a regular racetrack, but I feel like it's got to be different because you still have asphalt available on either side, kind of, till you don't.
So I was there for 2-3 hours, so
Mm-hmm.
don't claim to be any kind of expert on what they're doing there, but I did witness people blowing the cones
Mm-hmm.
on multiple occasions, and so I asked Caitlin out there, and I believe she said it's a penalty. It's like a 2-second add-on or something if you
Okay.
miss one of the cones. So they have a system set up
Okay, that makes
to
sense.
monitor that.
Yeah, that was like the biggest thing I think is I was like I would love to go ride that and see what it's all about, see what they do. There's no way I could keep up with what they're doing up there because I mean the old asphalt, all the weeds in the track, the cones, like
Yeah, that's
all of that is stuff that would just throw me off.
your Achilles heel right there.
Yeah. I have to have perfect pavement. I can ride a bike great if everything's set up absolutely perfect.
Yeah, so can everybody else.
Weird. Crazy.
So some of those videos again, I recommend if you haven't, and you're listening to this, go back and watch that YouTube video because some of them. So there's a guy up there they call the Duck Doc.
Duck. Ducati?
He's the guy that works on a lot of their suspensions up there.
Okay.
And one of the videos at the end of that YouTube video shows him going through there and pretty good clip. He's doing a pretty good clip, going fast.
Yeah.
And
I got you.
But the bike's like moving and you can see the bumps and you can see the more aggressive riding really moving around. And there's weeds on the track. I mean, it's the original asphalt from the 40s.
Yeah, that's insane. That is
so
insane. They're still riding that.
Yeah, if you pay attention and watch those bikes, you can see, and some of those are like from the pilot's view or the rider's view. Just watch that track. Just focus in on that track. And I never got a chance to throw a leg over a bike and go do a lap. Although I had multiple people there offer.
Yeah,
was on a bit of a time crunch, but
right.
Some great people there is really the point. I mean, if you want to check this out, you want to see what we're talking about, go watch that YouTube video.
Yep.
That's, wherever again, but go check out that video. But I really just wanted to say I appreciated the time out there. I appreciated the people I got to talk to. I talked to a lot of people off camera. I wasn't filming everything. I was just kind of walking up and down the paddock and listening to different stories and how different people got in there. The one gentleman I talked to up there is driving the old like Tom Cruise style Ninja.
Nice.
That era bike.
Yeah.
And it was canary yellow. The bike was canary yellow and it had a big number 77 on it.
Okay.
And I seen a guy, so yellow bike, and then I see this gentleman and he's wearing a black and yellow leathers.
Right.
And I could tell they were with the bike, right?
Yep.
So I said, "Excuse me, is that your bike?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "I like your bike." And we got talking, and everybody had a story. This is just one example, but his story was he had actually bought that bike new, I believe, for his wife so that she could go riding with him.
Okay.
And she had at some point early in her motorcycle road driving career had somebody pull out in front of her. And so she grabbed a handful of front and rear brake, laid it sideways and slammed it into the car. I think, she was great. I don't think she got actually injured, but it scared her.
Right.
And she decided she was done with riding motorcycles on the street, which happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. There's quite a few of those that end up at the track and they're like, wow, should have done this earlier.
Yeah. But he told me that you got to fix the bike to sell it, right? If he doesn't want to keep the bike anymore, he needs to fix it so it's worth something. So he fixed the bike and he had a buddy tell him, "Hey, these guys are out here at this airport. You should bring it out and try it out there." So he did. I got the feeling that was a lot of years ago. And he's just been riding that same bike ever since. And he is somebody that actually offered to let me ride
That's awesome.
that bike. that I didn't take him up on it. But the interesting thing is, if he's listening, I just want to say I put that man in his mid 60s.
Okay. Yeah.
I put him in his mid 60s, and as we were having this conversation, I asked him how long he'd been doing it, and he said something. He said, "See the number on my bike,"
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "You've been doing this since '77?" Because it's got this big 77 on. So I said, "You've been doing this since '77?" I was born in '77, so
Mm-hmm.
I know all about that year. Elvis died, Star Wars came out, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and he looked at me funny, and he goes, "No, I am 77."
Wow. All right. All right.
And so kudos to you, buddy, because you look mid 60s. You're holding it up nice,
There
and
you go.
but
You're still riding motorcycles on a racetrack, airport, racetrack,
yep,
racetrack. I think that's my favorite part, right? Is that like I was amazed to know that out in the wild frontier, the last frontier, the wild untamed Alaska, whatever you want to call it, there are people that still love racing motorcycles enough that they found a spot and they said, you know what, we're gonna freaking make it work. We don't care.
yep,
This is what we want to do, and we're just gonna do it. And I think there's a lot of people down here, probably myself included, honestly, that get so used to this, like, yeah, perfect pavement, amazing facility, all these people that know what they're doing, all the support and all of that. And here is this group of people up here that's doing it all completely on their own with support from probably only themselves, realistically,
yeah,
and they're making it work and they're doing it.
yeah.
So,
Support from each other. I mean,
yeah.
you heard that a lot. They help each other out when they have questions on bikes, setup, those kind of things.
Hmm.
And just, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from them either, but there were more bikes with slicks than not.
Hmm.
They're doing the tire warmers, generator. They're doing all the things.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I found myself thinking a couple times, like, maybe it should be a knobby tire. Like it
Well,
was just,
well, yeah. I mean, in the video, I think we've got a clip of, I want to say that was Caitlin, right?
yep.
Going just straight off the side of the track. And I mean, that's 60, 70 miles an hour into the
The, mo-
gravel and dirt and grass.
the most interesting thing about that video,
Uh huh.
she's going to listen. And I want
Mm
her to know she's a badass, because the thing that I notice in that video is that when she goes off track, it's about 70 ish.
Yeah, she
It's
speeds
got
up.
telemetry in the corner, right?
Yep.
So when you're watching this, pay attention to this part. The telemetry is like 72, low 70s. She goes off in the dirt, bushes. I walked out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not groomed gravel like you see at the MotoGP track. This is
Yeah.
big Alaskan wilderness river rocks, and there's like the berries that bears eat, and there's moose crap and everything else you can imagine out there. But
Uh huh.
there's like
Was
waist
there
high bushes.
was there goose poop?
No, that's Portland.
Okay, all right. Just
So there
had to bring
probably
that up.
was. There probably was. But if you watch this video, the thing I can't get over is that when we go off the track in the lower 48,
Mm-hmm.
you look over your shoulder, you kind of come to a stop. You're out in the dirt. You come to a stop or slow
Mm-hmm.
way, way, way down.
Yeah.
You look over if you're still up and you can get back on track, that's great. But you look over your shoulder and then make sure it's clear and you jump back on.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch her video, she's 70 miles an hour off the track. It slows down to like low 60s, and she's way off the track, just Bahan. And as she turns and starts bringing it back to the track, it goes back up over 70 miles an hour before she ever hits asphalt.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, well, I'm in the dirt, but I don't want to lose my lap time. We just got to go. Like, I saw that also, that was like in a turn, which means
Yep.
she had to have run off. Maybe she stood it up. It's kind of hard to tell with the camera. So maybe she stood it up a little bit, but it looked a lot like she stood it up after she was already off. And then, like you said, yeah, speed comes down, and then she's just like, no, guns it and starts to steer back over and just keeps going. I was like, this is. At first, I almost thought that was just like part of it.
Right.
Like, that's just part of what they do up there is they just go off road for a second. If you can hang, you can hang. If not, you don't belong. Like,
Get out of here.
it's insane.
So I asked a question, and I want to elaborate a little bit on this while we're on this subject, but I come off pretty stupid with my question, and we left it in the video because I wanted it still in there. But I asked Reed, who we were interviewing, I asked him if he had Amazon Prime in Alaska.
Right. Yeah.
And, I know they have Amazon Prime in Alaska.
You call me naive.
That's not exactly the way it's. So, not to go too deep into this, but I've been to Hawaii once, right, in my life. When I landed in Hawaii, the weird feeling I had to get used to is there's water all the way around you.
Yeah.
You can't just jump in your car. As a guy who's used to, I can jump in my car and drive 12 hours if I want. You can't do that in Hawaii. You run into water, right? But Alaska kind of gave me a similar feeling because I'm an American. I'm not Canadian. So this is my country too, right? Alaska. So I flew in a plane and landed in the United States. I got off that plane in the United States, but you're almost like on an island because you can't go visit your friends in Utah or Washington or wherever without traveling through another country.
Right.
And we all know Canada is, they're our friends too. So it's not like, it's not traveling through Uzbekistan. You know, I don't mean to make it sound like that, but after doing that drive, because I drove back, as you know, the province of Yukon. So I had an opportunity to talk to Justin DeLong at the USBA race, who's a racer from Edmonton. And I was asking him about that because I just done that drive.
Right.
But the province of Yukon, there is nothing. So if you're trying to leave Alaska, I mean, you're 15 hours before you start to get to. So I would point out that Canada has a racing series. Canada has racetracks. Canada has, but Canada's a big country like the United States, but they're mostly empty.
Yeah, up in the, well, especially I think like obviously further north because the land kind of turns into polar ice caps. Yeah, and then also it feels like the west side is a lot like right down there. That's where Vancouver is.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like that area is okay. But then the east side, I feel like it's got a lot more before it turns into desolate.
Yeah. I didn't mean to switch this. I didn't mean to switch this to Canadian
geography.
Canadian geography, but if you do look at Alaska, they don't. So the United States East Coast is overpopulated, right? From tip to tip.
Yep.
But there's nothing on the East Coast in Canada. If you start looking at those big cities, they're all inland. They're all in the Great Lakes. They're all above Detroit and above. So they have a big population area in Quebec. That's all above the UP.
So I got to correct that because I think so. We got called out, and I'll go ahead and say it. The Upper Peninsula is actually just the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, just the only state with a peninsula. So you have the Lower Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula. That's great. Love you guys from Michigan. You guys are doing amazing things. To me, the UP will always be Minnesota to Maine, right? Like it's just going to be that. But I understand now. I got it. Scientifically, yes. However, I think technically Alaska is a peninsula because it's surrounded by water on all but one side. And therefore, Alaska is the actual upper peninsula of the United States. It by itself. So you guys that are from the UP no, sorry. You ain't got it anymore. Anyway, just had to put that out there.
Who are you trying to piss off today?
Everyone. Always. Please stick around and continue to listen.
Anyway, being in Alaska, the reason I asked the question, going back to the Amazon Prime question, is not that I really didn't think they had Amazon Prime, but you know, you always hear people in Canada saying, maybe not always, but I've been in conversations with people in Canada complaining that maybe they can't get parts because of tariffs or something like that. And here's Alaska. It's part of the United States, but don't touch the United States. So they have all the same things the lower 48 has, right? But at the end of the day, I gotta assume that Dunlop probably doesn't want to send a tire all the way up there without a surcharge or something.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was kind of
I get it because I mean I had the same question. I'm like, well, where do you even buy a bike from? Because in my head, like I'm sure there's power sports dealers up there. You can buy your razors, 4-wheelers, dirt bikes, whatever. But like in my head, again, there was never a need for a sport bike, which I understand that again very naive about what's actually in Alaska. But like I was just like, well, I mean, even it's like in Cache Valley, right? Cache Valley, Utah, northern Utah. It's not really a sport bike dealer up there. Because everyone up there wants to go buy dirt bikes and 4-wheelers and razors and snowmobiles, and they do the off-road thing, which is fine. And I just kind of always imagined that that's all Alaska is.
There's definitely a lot of razors, side-by-sides up there.
Yeah, which makes sense. But yeah, how'd like the question makes sense. I think Amazon Prime is kind of but but I get it, right? Like, well, how is it? Like, if you order something from Sport Bike Track Gear, like, can you do that? Does it take way longer? Is there somewhere you can go to take your bike to get a dyno tuned? You know, is there a guy that, like, it sounds like they've got the duck doc or whatever that helps them out with suspension, and that's awesome. But like, is that just because he's there and had to learn it, or like, those are the questions. So
Yeah, well, to add to that point, in Utah,
mm-hmm.
even in overpopulated, Wasatch Front,
Mm-hmm.
we had a sport bike dyno tune race shop that's no longer with us, and
Yeah.
this is why I'm asking the audience for a recommendation on the
'Cause they
BMW motor,
don't know where to
because
go.
yeah, I mean, California's full of them. I can send it, any number of places across the country, but I'm partially trying to figure out what I have around here so that I can start a new relationship with a new company potentially. And,
Yeah, I mean, you need that, right? Because a worst case scenario, you're running the bike again next year, or you're running the new bike this weekend, and something happens, right? You want a guy that is close, that that you've been to before. That maybe it takes a week, but you can
yep,
take it to him, and it'll take a week instead of I'm going to ship this off to California. Who knows when I'm going to get it back? I don't know who's working on it. I don't get to talk to him and shake hands. You need that relationship, right? And that guy can
yep,
also point you in. He's like, well, yeah, actually, I've got a buddy over here that does suspension or whatever, right? So
right. Yep. That was Alaska. It's
that's
not
Alaska.
I don't know how to sit here and recommend like, hey, if you're ever in Alaska, go up there, because it's like 8 miles from the closest town.
Mm-hmm.
The town is a gas station and a little visitor center
Nice.
at a intersection with
Sweet.
a four-way stop intersection, right?
Is
I
it
mean,
dirt road?
that's arguable. That Alaskan highway, it's arguable whether that's paved or not. You hear the older than me people like, when I used to go up there, it was a dirt road, and I'm like, a dirt road would have been easier, because it, you talk about your cracks on your road that bother you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the Alaska highway, at least right now, is asphalt, dirt, asphalt, dirt, giant holes. They got spray paint and signs saying bump,
No.
and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you'll see this thing says bump, and so you'll brace yourself, and that one's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, you'll fall into a giant hole, and it throws you clear off the road, and that one wasn't marked. So I think there's some trickery going on with the signs up there, I think.
Gotcha.
But it's not the greatest road. You'll have kidney damage.
All right. Well, I think the moral is that if you ever thought that motorcycle racing, road racing wasn't everywhere, it turns out it is. Even in a place that it doesn't make sense. The people that ride the motorcycles adapt and overcome, and we keep it going wherever it is. So, shout out to our guys up in Alaska. If you ever
Yeah.
meet one, or you ever up there or whatever, or if you're just looking for entertainment, research, whatever, check it out. So,
Yeah, and thank you for letting
so
me
that.
snoop around.
Yeah.
Special thanks to Caitlin. I'd also like to just say that if any of you up there in Alaska are ever in my neck of the woods, the invitation stands. Come down. I'll let you. I know it's hard to get a bike here from Alaska, so I'm sure there's something in the stable we can work
Yeah.
out. You know,
One of them.
yeah. Come on up. I did talk to a couple different people up there that maybe had some plans to travel and go visit some tracks.
Cool.
Some of them had plans to move actually to the lower 48
Gotcha.
at some point. So anyway, that was Alaska. Go check out the YouTube video.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, we have to cover MotoGP.
Well, what do you want? Let's go. I'm
All
mad.
right.
I'm
You're
mad as
mad.
hell.
I'm also mad. What are you mad about?
Well, let's start here.
Okay.
Jorge Martin.
Ah, nice. That's where I wanted to start. That freaking guy.
Well, no, see, I'm going to go against you on this. I'm going to go against the
Don't.
announcers. I'm going to go against the penalty. I'm going to go against everything, because this is what I saw with my old eyes. And I watched the replay 1,000 times, and I race motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
I drive motorcycles, and
Mm-hmm.
this is just one man's opinion.
Okay.
Top Gun caused that 100%. 90% of that was him. Who the hell is starting from the front row and falls back to the bottom quarter of the field in both races, for the record?
Yeah. Okay.
But if you watch that replay, for those that don't know, Jorge Martin tried going up the inside of Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
Tried going up the inside. He had Fabio
God,
Quartararo also.
not just Maverick. Everybody.
Yeah, there was a
There's
whole
like
pile of
6
bikes for
bikes right
sure.
there.
There's a whole pile of bikes for sure.
Yeah.
And he shot the bike up underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Fabio bounced off of him. Top Gun bounced off of him. Caused a skittle effect.
Mm-hmm.
And took out Bezzecchi. Took out Zarco, I think. It took out... So there were a lot of other bikes involved, like Fabio, Bastianini. You know, some of those didn't actually go down. Some of those continued. Yada, yada, yada. But that's the gist of it, right?
Right.
So here's my take on it, though. It's Jorge Martin's job to try to go fast.
Yes.
Jorge Martin was trying to go fast.
Okay.
Who the hell can anticipate a roadblock? A guy that's not twisting the throttle on his bike for some reason. I'm sure it was the clutch. It couldn't have been him because that's what he usually says.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming backwards in the field. Everybody's moving around him. It's changing the shuffle of everything. I mean, things happen like that, right?
Sure.
But it's changing that shuffle of everything. If Maverick would have been going at speed, if he was a rider in that position that was moving forward instead of had that thing in reverse, it wouldn't have been balling everything up, and he probably would have been fine doing what he did in that corner. But Maverick, in my opinion, was backing everything up, and I've seen it from so many different angles.
So I'll have to go back and rewatch it and look for that angle. But here's what made me upset. Jorge Martin qualified in 12th position.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's second in the championship. And I think he was going into the weekend.
Yeah.
Right? Qualified in 12th position, and that is terrible. And then the first corner of the freaking race, the sprint. This was in the sprint, by the way, on Saturday. He's booking it up into a corner where there isn't room for him. And again, this is from my angle, so if I need to go back and rewatch, whatever. But there's no room, and he's just trying to get around everyone. Like, it's something I would do in a video game, right? Because I know that nothing matters, and I can just dive up the inside, wreck whoever's on the outside of me. Then I don't even have to worry about him racing anymore, and I can keep going. And that takes me from 12th to 6th in one corner, and then I only have to chase down 5 guys, right? My biggest issue with it is that from the view of everyone, honestly, and myself included, is a very unsafe maneuver. Very uncalled for. Like, you qualified bad, do the work, put in the work, and go win the race if you want to. But you don't need to ride extremely unsafely and dive it in where it doesn't belong.
So did you feel like Fabio ran into him or he ran into Fabio?
I feel like it was a mix. So I'll give it that, right? They were both coming in. Fabio came in, but I feel like when he came in, there's a rule when you're passing in a corner about that to prevent that. And there's a point where you're no longer allowed to make that inside pass because it's unsafe. And that is the rule that he broke.
So Fabio ran into the back half of his bike.
Mm-hmm.
That tells me that he was ahead of Fabio at the time of contact. Hear me out. At the time of contact.
Mm-hmm.
But did Fabio hit him because Jorge Martin was braking harder than Fabio? Or was Fabio going faster than him?
I don't know, because the way that I looked at it also was that he came in and then had to take his corner wider than he thought he was going to have to because he had too much speed coming in too quick. Right? Like every view that I looked at, and I'll go back and rewatch it and try and figure out whatever we can rehash that next week. But every view I looked at looked like he came in way too late, tried to pass way too many people, couldn't stick it and scoot it out a little bit, while someone else is, yes, coming in, but that's the normal path of travel, took the complete opposite, knocked everyone out behind him, then looked back, threw his hand up like, why the hell did you guys do that? And then moved on with life. And it only really, really made me upset. Now I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring him up. But this is the guy who said we need to kick Marc Marquez out of MotoGP because he's unsafe and doesn't belong out there and whatever else, right? And Jorge Martin, there's no excuse for that move. There's no, well, my brakes weren't working. There's no whatever. It purely looked like I qualified bad and I need to get up there quick because I'm going to lose my championship if I don't.
Right.
That's why I believe it was mostly his fault, because he's the one. I mean, he came in second, qualified bad that weekend, and was doing everything he could to get the points back that he wanted.
So I think the point or the opinion that I have, though, I'm not so much arguing that he didn't try pulling a Marc Marquez, and because that's pretty much exactly what Mark did at the beginning of the year when he got in all the trouble.
Yeah,
He barreled
ish.
into a corner like that, right?
I'd argue that too, but yeah.
So I'm not even trying to say like everything he did was perfect, but what I am trying to say, if Dillhole Maverick was driving normal, that probably would have been fine. That would have went off and people would have like shuffled a little sideways or whatever, got out of the way. Everything would have been fine. But you had a bike parked in the corner that he wasn't anticipating.
Maverick and like I said, I'll have to go watch that again because I didn't catch that part. I wasn't really watching Maverick that much.
So watch him because he's the one that balls everything up.
Right. But the other issue that I had is that it happened again later in the race. And that wasn't Maverick.
Right. So
that was Marini.
Yeah. So as I watched the race, the sprint, I was yelling about, because I had opinions. I still have opinions.
Yeah, I was yelling also.
I was yelling, and I'm not a Jorge Martin fan anyway, so I'm not trying to get him off. It's, I root against him, honestly. And later in the race, when he hit Luca, that's the one I wanted the penalty for. That's the one I thought was cheap.
I think so. That's why I think when I saw that one, that like just doubled down for me on the first one. Because I saw that and I was like, are you freaking kidding me, dude? Like, you qualified bad.
Yeah,
stop being ridiculous.
You're mad.
And like, if you're literally being a hypocrite, again, because he was like so, like, absolutely willing to just bag on Mark and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, I'm not trying to say that Mark didn't make a mistake, but if you're going to come out and say, like, this person is unsafe, doesn't belong in MotoGP, blah, 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 we want him out of here, can't do it, this and that. If you're going to do that, then you better not freaking do the same thing a couple weeks later just because you're sitting in second and don't want to lose your place.
Yep.
Like, you qualified bad. That sucks. You got to put in the work. And, oh my goodness. Yeah.
I agree. So we have to talk about this, but what is wrong with Jack?
I was actually going to give you a lot of crap today. I was thinking about it. I was like, man, how do I nicely say
so that dude qualifies so good, but like it's the theme of his whole year. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it was good finish, crash, good finish, crash. But
yes, standard. Yeah. No offense, Jack, but standard.
But
standard Jack.
Since even before the break, even before the summer break, you can always count on him to qualify good.
Yep.
And usually better than Brad.
Yeah, well
that wasn't the case this week.
This week was kind of crazy because he was in Q1. I was like, whoa, that'll be a good Q1. And sure enough, it was. It came out and
it was fun to watch.
Yeah. So Q1 was actually, I always get so upset with Q1 and Q2. Not so upset, but like reasonably. Because you go to Q1 and some of those dudes put down lap times that are like nuts. And half the time they barely get beaten in Q2. Like if they could have made it to Q2, they would have been in 6th, like, but I understand why they do it that way. They don't need to change it, but it's just kind of funny. I'm like, why didn't you do that, yesterday?
But if we're talking about things that need to change, this MotoGP app needs to freaking.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
we're not the only ones going to talk about this either. There's other people talking about it, but they ruined my app.
Yeah.
I cannot hardly watch it without spoilers. I don't know if they're doing it intentionally, but they're calling practice and Q1 and they call it something different every week, it seems.
Yeah, well, and so I'll say that like visually, to keep up with the times, the app looks a little bit more modern now and it's more visually appealing, or visually appealing, not appearing, right? I'll give them that, but it is terrible to navigate. Because you go to racing, you click on the race, and then it's like, do you want results or do you want the video? I want the video because I don't want to see the results. Now you go to racing and your only option is results. You have to go to videos. And to get to the racing videos, you scroll past all of the highlights and like interview with the winner, Brad Binder.
Yep.
Like, he didn't win, but like you get stuff like that and you're like, what the?
And then the other thing that my favorite part of the app. So, I'm a guy that likes to sit down and watch every practice, every qualifying, if I got time.
Yeah.
But sometimes, the first practice, if I'm busy, I want to skim it. I want to highlight.
Yeah.
Well, you used to, on the old one, you used to go to it and it had those colored bars on the bottom.
Yeah, you could kind of click through it. Yeah.
Yeah, a green was a start. Maybe a blue was an incident, yellow was an incident, a red was a crash. And so it's 50 minutes or whatever, right? 40 minutes, 50 minutes?
It's 45, but yeah.
So,
well, actually, I don't know. Might be an hour. Anyway, whatever.
So when I want to watch that, but I don't have time, I might cut out 30 minutes in the middle because there's no bars.
Yeah.
And so they're forcing me to try to watch it, but it seems glitchier too. Like, it took me 2 days to figure out how to get the pause and the, forward 10 seconds, back 10 seconds off of the screen. Have you noticed that?
Does it not go away?
It don't ever go away. You have to tap the screen to get it to go away.
Hit it. No, I always just hit it anyway, so I didn't notice, but that's nuts. But no, I mean, I agree with the bars were nice because, yeah, if I'm sitting down on a Sunday and we got to be somewhere, I can afford to watch the race, but I can't afford to watch you give me all the background of Austria and the whales and the, whatever freaking nature. This stuff's awesome. They make amazing videos, right? Like the race day video is sweet. And if you can sit down and watch the whole thing, it's an experience. That's great. But I don't always have time for that. Sometimes it's 9:30 in the morning. I got to get this thing watched because we got to be somewhere out the door by 10. So I need to sit down. I need to start it right at the start, right? And before you had like, this is the end of the sighting lap. This is the end of the warm-up lap. This is the start. This is, like you said, a red spot, like big wreck happened here. This is the end of the race. Like all these little bars, you could go straight to the green and you're literally, the
race
lights are
starting.
on. Yeah. Perfect. Good to go. But now you're just sitting there like, okay, well, 10 minutes? Oh, no, most people are still in the pits in 10 minutes. Like,
yeah. The other thing is, I mean, I know it's my favorite. I don't think it's your favorite, but I tell you all the time that I love the press conference. I love the opening press conference. I love when Jack Miller's on it. Makes it more exciting. But I always watch the press conference. Since they changed that app, I know you found it the other day.
Yeah.
And I found one after the race, but I don't really want to watch it after the race. I want to hear the lead up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, it's the opening to the weekend.
I haven't watched the press conference since the app changed because I can't freaking find the damn thing when I want to watch it.
All right. Well, yeah. Hey, if you're listening, anyone that works for Dorna, tell them to fix their crap because it's not good. It's terrible. If you are Dorna, fix your freaking crap. It is terrible. Also, let us put your videos on our podcast.
Yep.
Anyway, can we talk about Honda for a second?
Let's do it.
Did you see the picture that MotoGP posted on Instagram of old Aero versus new Aero?
Oh, maybe.
Because they used to have the kind of like almost Aprilia looking wings, like real thin, right, and then like very smooth side right there. And now, when I first saw it, I thought they had like a shelf built into the fairing,
right?
But it's actually a little like bendy wing. So they've basically built a Ducati front end, from the look of it.
Yeah,
with not quite as much. I'd say like a Ducati KTM mix.
Yeah, it's similar, and it was easy to see because on Mark's bike they had it colored different.
Yeah, right. They got the big old thick wings on the front, and like much like the KTM has hanging down, and then they've got a little kind of bendy wing.
That was cool. That's cool. What'd it do for him?
I'm thinking it might have done something. He finished the race.
It's so big. They're actually training wheels.
Yeah, I don't know. So Mir still crashed out, right? Mir still crashed out, and Mark didn't make it into Q2. He qualified like 16th or whatever. Finished the race 12th because a lot of people crashed out. But he made some passes. He kept the bike on the ground the whole time. I will say that, much like the commentators mentioned, he was on soft tires for a 28-lap race in very warm weather. right? He had a soft rear tire. So,
well, we're not giving him kudos for that. He chose him.
yeah,
It
they
was
chose
the
him.
only bike that chose him.
They chose him for testing reasons, and that's all they're really doing is testing. But I gotta say that it was a better weekend for him than he's had in a while. So it
That's the
must have done something.
that's the first race he's finished
Yeah,
this year.
all year. Yeah, it's been 322 days since Mark has seen a checkered flag in a MotoGP race. I want that job. There's someone working for Dorna for MotoGP that sits and like finds out facts and then sends them over to the commentators. He's just like, "Hey, check this out, check this out, check this out." And then when they're like, "We don't know what to talk about," oh yeah, did you know that it has been 322 days since Mark Marquez last finished a MotoGP race? Like, you didn't just come up with that on the spot, right?
Right.
Like, oh. Anyway,
So
I think Honda, the fact that they came out in, we had a 2-week gap. It wasn't the big summer break. It wasn't anything, but they came out and had a very big change like that. Like that's a drastic aero change.
so Honda announced earlier in the week
Hmm.
that they are willing to spend whatever it takes. They are not leaving MotoGP, and they are putting Mark back on top. And
Which is good.
they mentioned Mark directly, and the
Hmm.
argument there is, okay, cool. I'm glad to hear it. Let's do it.
Hmm.
But the kind of what got you in this boat in the first place, you do have other riders.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, but I mean, Mark's also,
arguable.
yeah.
I
There's
swear to
that.
God, Joan Mir just drives out there until he gets tired, and then he just sets his bike down on the ground and walks back to the pit.
Anymore, I don't know.
What
I
is he
don't know.
doing?
I have no idea. I don't know. Because I would say that like Mark's wrecked a lot, but usually it looked like it was because he was trying to do something. Yeah, I don't know. Because Mir, maybe he just doesn't care because he thought he was going to Repsol Honda and he was super excited about it, blah blah blah, and it's just been crap all year, and all the attention's been on Mark instead. But I mean, I have no idea.
So Alex is gone, as we knew,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a surprise. But Joan Zarco is going to the LCR bike. That
Most
was
likely.
announced.
Was it?
It was announced official today.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the interesting thing about that is Zarco said earlier in the week. I mean, you knew he was leaving Ducati because he started making some negative comments. And earlier in the week, he said, "It seems to me that Honda is way more interested in getting me than Ducati is in keeping me." And then the rumor mill says
They
that
probably want him as a test rider.
the rumor mill is LCR said they're going to pay him twice what he's making now. So he might have been, that's enough money for me to go drive a crap bike around. Or Zarco might, maybe he's got one more gamble left because Honda and their resources, who knows what they do this offseason.
Yeah.
And if they're really publicly coming out saying how committed they are, they might bring the best bike on the grid next year.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I don't think so, but it could
I
happen.
don't think so either, but I don't even, I would love for Mark to win another championship. I would love for that to be on a Honda, right? I'm a Mark fan. I think he deserves it. I think he's that good. I think it can happen. What I want is a non-all Ducati grid at the front of the race, right? And right
I
now,
agree.
Brad Bender's given me that to a degree, and it's awesome, right? Like Brad's up there playing around, going crazy. That guy's nuts. Jack Miller was doing that at the beginning a little bit. The Aprilias are starting to come out, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
did something over the summer break that kind of made them pop. I think if they had a different rider or two in there, it might be a little better. But
It is the
even
clutch.
even with who they've got, they're doing something right. I've seen a video about how the Aprilia's actually got the best bike for whatever reason. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. But I want Honda and Yamaha both to come back up there. And
Absolutely.
Yamaha, I don't know. I don't know what their plan is, what they're doing. They don't have a satellite team, right? I was afraid that Honda was going down, going by, and Japan was basically just leaving and saying, "Well, good luck, Europe. You guys got it because we can't hold anymore. We can't hang."
Right.
But yeah, it looks like one with their announcement, and two with like making a big change like that. Obviously, they don't care about their standings for the rest of the season because they don't have anything, so they can just sit there and test for the entire rest of the season, try out everything, and come up with whatever they want. And I'm hoping that they come out next year and we have a colorful front row or two or three, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It was kind of fun today. Like I could care less, honestly, on one hand, but today it was fun for whatever reason. But Rossi being there,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was just, it was just,
Yesterday was funny. Saturday,
yeah.
the sprint because oh man, yeah,
Lost both his bikes
yeah, from Jorge, yeah.
from Jorge, but even today, man, he was so stoked when Bezecchi, got up there into third place or whatever. They panned the camera over to him and he's cheering.
Mm-hmm.
But
And then he got passed again, and that was a good little battle for a bit there.
yeah,
I will say I'm personally proud of Alex Marquez this year. Not actually, but I think
did you hear the announcers try saying that it's gonna the Rossi Marquez rivalry
yeah,
is getting reignited at a different level?
yeah.
I'm
I
like,
was
why?
thinking
Why?
that
Because they
though.
tried passing each other on a racetrack.
Whoa, crazy! Two racers in MotoGP on a racetrack are going to pass each other. It's insane. No, I mean that was nice. That was nice though, right? Because Bezecchi, like, again, to throw back on Bagnaia being a robot, I don't see him make moves like that. But here comes Bezecchi flying down the straight, makes a pass, and then just can't stick for the end. Goes way wide. Alex passes him. Next time around, same thing. Straight pass. A little bit better that time, but Alex passes him.
Yep.
Right? And then it's just like this, like the bikes being a little bit more raw, untamed, whatever you want to call. Guys kind of throwing it out there in a safe manner. But
Yeah, but
um,
like you're saying, he seems to be he's a more exciting rider from that aspect because you never
yeah.
know. Like he's gonna try some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not just the I will go down and put the perfect lap. Which the perfect lap might win the race, but if you have that, then what's the point in watching anymore? That's not what we want. You want the drama, right? NASCAR, you watch it for the wrecks. You don't watch it to see these guys make perfect passes and drive in a perfect oval
Right.
250 times. You watch it because there's going to be drama. There's going to be some dudes that, they end up four wide in a track that should only be three and whatever else, right? It's the same thing here. I don't want to just sit and watch motorcycles ride perfectly and just have a bike pass bike and whatever. Anyway, also, I don't remember what corner it was, but the leg dangle is pretty insane, right? I don't know if you've ever attempted a leg dangle yourself.
I have. It almost ripped me off the back of the bike, so I decided that wasn't for me.
I like put my leg down one time just to see, and I was like, well, how do I get it back up on the bike? Like crazy. This track, they're coming into I want to say a right hander, but they're like leaning left,
Yes.
and their leg ends up like all the way up. Like it's sticking literally more
Yeah,
on a.
I don't know if it's an optical illusion, but I always notice that here. There's a couple tracks that they do that,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the way the camera's showing them coming down the straight or whatever, when they stick that
Yeah,
leg out, they're leaned the wrong way for the leg to be out, and
yeah, and it's like it looks nuts. It literally looks like it's above the you cut a 90, they're above it. They're
right.
going up. And I'm like, how do you even? I don't even know how you motorcycle like that. But
I think the leg dangle should be outlawed everywhere but MotoGP. I decided.
good luck with that.
Well,
I do love when you're at a track day and some dude, sticks his leg out to go through a
yeah. Well,
corner.
I had somebody do that to me.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that?
No, I don't think so.
So there was a guy who was falling around that kept kind of kicking his leg out.
Mm-hmm.
I was chasing him down. I was gaining on him, gaining on him, and it was at the track day. It wasn't during a race,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going down that last straight before you exit, and I was setting him up. I was going to go around the outside in that last corner,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm in there as hot as I can trying to outbrake him, and he waits till he's like 10 feet from the exit,
Yeah.
and he kicks his little leg out, which is the same way he's been doing it every time, right? He kicks
Yeah.
his little leg out, but apparently that little leg kick out 10 feet before the exit was meaning he was getting off the track. That's the first time he'd had
Oh,
any sign. So I'm on the outside of him, and he's
yeah.
trying to come through me to take the exit, and I'm already on the brake. I can do no more.
Right. Yeah, and I didn't think about that. That does make sense. I mean, hey, I've stuck my leg out. Now, most of the time, I'm using the hand. I might do a leg like, if I'm going through a corner, maybe I'll stick a leg up right before we exit the track or whatever. But I'm usually using a hand, and there is there's something to be said for like I don't know. It feels like laziness I mean, if you go through the corner the same way every time, you're always sticking your leg out the same way, but this time it means you're getting off the track. Like, that doesn't meet the intent of let everyone know you're getting off the track.
Well,
Right. And
plus it's
especially if
supposed
there
to
wasn't
be.
anything like before then, because it should be the corner before that,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
believe, right?
and I was on this guy, so I was watching him. So he hadn't gave any sign of
Yeah.
getting off the track until right at the last second. So how was I supposed to know he wasn't just Valentino?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up MotoGP. I want to make a championship prediction.
Really?
Yeah, I want you to. Yeah.
We already know.
Not I like the winners, sure, but I want like second and third. I mean, Bagnaia is at 251 with Martin behind him at 189. But then Bezzecchi at 183 and Binder at 160. And then Zarco, actually, at 125.
So Zarco's not going to be getting much support anymore.
Yeah.
I would take him off my top 3 list. I feel like the same reason we're saying we like Bezzecchi.
Mm-hmm.
He's putting that bike down a couple more times.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't think I'm ever going to keep him in the top 3.
Really? Okay.
I want him to be, but I'll put him at like 4th. I think Brad Binder's going to move to that 2nd spot.
Okay.
But who would
And
I
you're
put in
leaving
3rd?
Are you leaving Martin there?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
What say you?
Well, I'm not because I hate him, but because I think he's going to bin it. I think like one this weekend probably shook him up a little bit. He's going to be upset, and that's going to take him back to the old Martinator, and he's going to bin it too much. He's definitely not in the top 3 at all. I'm going to put him down into 4th place. And then I just swap Bezzecchi and Binder, honestly. Like looking at points, just trying to go like purely scientific. Part of me wants to be like, well, Bagnaia is going to wreck it 5 times and lose all his points, and Bezzecchi's going to win it with Brad Binder in 2nd, and then Maverick Vinales is going to come out of nowhere and win every race. And so he's going to move into 3rd, right? But that's not going to happen. So I think, Bagnaia in 1st, Binder in 2nd, and then Bezzecchi down in 3rd. Martin, I don't care. He's not going to make it, though. He's going to bin it a lot.
He's dead to me.
He's going to go back to qualifying good and then just dump the bike everywhere. So,
well,
all right.
Is that the MotoGP?
Yep. I think that's MotoGP.
Okay, because we don't have to spend a lot of time with Moto America because remember that spike you created when you got everybody to buy their app? And this was the year.
Yeah.
It was so close to being the year, guys. Next year is going to be the year.
Yeah. Keep the app.
Keep the app. Next year is going to be the year. It's been great racing. Not taking anything away from it. It's been a great season, but we're getting down here to the end, and everything just kind of went bad. So in Brainerd, of course, Cameron Beaubier was. I mean, there was a championship fight between 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Going into Brainerd, and just quick recap for those that don't know: Gagne finished 1st in one race, 2nd in the next. So put in solid points. Cameron Beaubier crashes, gets a concussion, sits out the 2nd race. So greatly hinders him, moves Josh Herrin into 2nd. So you're like, oh, maybe Josh Herrin will make a run at it. And then he has a mechanical.
Yeah.
And so it gave Gagne a big points lead. Going into pit this week, Herrin, to have any chance, had to finish 2nd. Just to keep his points championship alive.
Yeah.
And he did not. He finished He finished 3rd in the 2nd race.
So Josh Herrin took for 6th in race 1. He took 3rd in race 2, and he took 3rd in race 3.
Okay, so that race 2, if somebody's looking for one race to go watch, that race 2 was a good race, especially for a Josh Herrin fan. I know he only finished 3rd, which is great and bad at the same time.
What happened to Beaubier?
So you need to go find that highlight if you haven't seen it. I need to find it and send it to you. So going through the chicane, the Scheibe Racing, which is a 2016 BMW.
Yeah, the old white one.
Yep. It had some kind of mechanical problem, and it just slowed down. Brrr. And Cameron Beaubier ran right into the back of him.
Oof.
Used the Scheibe bike for a jump. Sounded familiar.
Yeah.
Bobier went down. Shabby Bike did not. He. I said sounding familiar, right?
Yeah.
The Shabby Bike rode off into the grass.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Bobier had a hard hit, and he got a big cut. Go look for the pictures. They're hauling him off the track with no helmet on, and blood all over his face, and
Jeez. Okay.
he decided not to.
Yeah, what a season for
So he
him.
sat out.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if we're having a shootout, if they were starting it over to tomorrow and it was just that BMW, the Tyler Cycle BMW versus Jake Gagne, and I'd have a hard time picking which one I'm betting on.
Yeah.
The Tyler's guys have nothing to be hang their head about this year. They've been awesome. Cam's been awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Jake Gagne has been consistent and awesome.
Yep.
And it was gonna be the year, and it tried. It tried, but we petered out a little bit here at the end.
Well, I'll say I think much like MotoGP, right? It's Cam Bobier's first year on that BMW. It's that BMW's first year in the world, technically.
Right.
And so, it's a good learning year. And the fact that they came out and did that amazing with the new team, new bikes, new riders, whatever you want to call it, I do think, Gagne, there's something to be said for Gagne's been on a Yamaha for years. Been winning races on that bike with that team for a few years now. So he knows what he's doing. They know what they're doing. They know exactly. They got the data from last year. They can make all the same adjustments. They're not trying to build every single race they go to. And I feel like the BMW and you could say the same for Josh Herron on the Ducati. The Ducati's been around a little longer, but
it's only year 2 on that bike. So first year for him.
Yep. So a lot more work, and I'm hoping they all stick to what they're doing for next year. I think that's what's going to happen. We'll keep you updated on that. But next year should be good because now they've got all this data, which apparently data is the name of the game. So
it still was a good race. So Moto Americas come down to, we got Coda coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just a quick shout
3
out.
weeks, I think.
Yeah, I hope everybody goes down there and supports them. With the championship being done, that takes another chink in the armor. But I hope everybody goes and supports them. Just Moto America decided to stand on their own without MotoGP, and so we're really hoping they get a good turnout in Coda.
Yeah, and once again, I'll just point out it's Moto America. It's not MotoGP, so you don't need a pit pass to go to the pits. Right.
Yeah.
It's a great chance to go check out a world-class facility with some amazing motorcycle racing at a pretty reasonable price, I would imagine, and go pretty much be able to do whatever you want to do. So,
and nobody with anything to lose. Cameron Bobier, remember he had some really good showings in Moto 2 when MotoGP was there.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
He knows the track. It's a high horsepower track. Might look good for the BMWs.
Yeah. That is. Yeah.
It'll be a fun race. I mean, the championship's over at this point, but that don't mean those guys don't still want to win.
Yep.
So Coda, and then they finish the season in Jersey.
So south and then back up north, and then we're done, and see them again next year. All right. Well, we got anything else?
No, I think that's about it. What do we got coming up? We got a track day in North Carolina.
South Carolina. It's right on the border, but it's technically South Carolina is the state that it is technically in. Yeah.
Carolina Motorsports Park. We're
yes,
both
sir.
Signed up for that.
Yep, we'll be doing a 2-day there with then 2 track days, and then before that, you got your race weekend coming up.
Yeah,
2 weeks, so we'll definitely be talking about that. Here we get to hear firsthand how a 2022 S1000 RR holds out to the old.
Yeah,
old versus new.
I hope so.
Yeah. And then I'm pretty sure we're both still planning on Podium Club.
Yep.
And on late October, so be on the lookout for that. We should have some good content coming out of both Carolina Motorsports Park and the Podium Club. Podium Club will be a great time, and that's 3 straight days. Like I said, if you're anywhere down there or near there, I think it's well worth checking out. Yep. Brand new track, new facility. I'm excited to see like what it looks like down there, and after looking at their plans on their website, I think that'll be a cool facility when it gets done. So I'm excited to kind of see how they're what it looks like in real life. Yeah.
How they're progressing.
Yep.
Okay. Well, sounds good. One last time. If you haven't, go check out that Alaska video.
Yep.
Do all the things, right? Like.
Yeah, and thanks again to the team up there. And then, sorry, not to steal your thunder.
No, you're good.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe. Don't smash. Contractually obligated to say that, or the editor gets mad at us. So,
okay, yeah, no smashing. Thou shalt not smash.
Yes.
Smash the like button. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week.
Yep. See ya.